Tuesday, February 27th, 2024.
You're listening to Weather with Enthusiasm.
We have a very strong low pressure system developing out in the plains, which is expected to push into the upper Midwest later today. Today is Tuesday, February 27th. This storm system will have Gulf moisture to work with, along with very cold air on the backside. This will allow a significant winter storm to move across the upper Midwest. Very heavy mountain snows for several states, which are accumulating, snowfalls accumulating 1 to 2 inches an hour as we speak, with blizzard conditions across many of the mountain areas of Wyoming and areas around there, including Colorado. Heavy snowfall again moves into the upper Midwest, the North Dakota area and South Dakota for later on today into tonight. A second area of low pressure develops in the mid-Mississippi Valley, moves into Illinois, right very close to the Chicago area, and then moves to the northeast. Now, these are the ramifications. The following is the ramifications of all this. We have a strong south flow, which is bringing unseasonably warm, unseasonably hot air into the south central states, southern plains, into the Midwest, even the upper Midwest. We have temperatures into the mid-90s over in Texas. Dallas, Texas, hit at least 93 degrees Monday, February 26th. And Fort Worth, temperatures are reported to have hit 94 degrees. Those are records, with the hottest February temperature ever for Dallas being 96 degrees. Monday was 93 to 94 degrees. Many records were set in Illinois and Missouri. This includes 80 degrees in the St. Louis, Missouri area, a record high at O'Hare Airport, which is the official recording station for Chicago, Monday, October 26th. February 26th, with a high of 71 degrees. Record warmth was set in many other cities across the Midwest, with temperatures going into the 60s and 70s, even across the upper Midwest. The unseasonably warm air is going to continue for today. Forecasters tell us that Tuesday, February 27th, once again, temperatures going into the 90s for Texas, 80s across many other states, with temperatures going into the 70s here in the Chicago area. But there's something which is even more significant, which is going to be developing later on today, and that's in response to the secondary area of low pressure developing later on today. So again, we have the primary storm system, which is moving across the upper Midwest. That's going to bring the snow on the backside. That's also been responsible for the south flow of very warm air. We have compressional warming occurring as well as the air descends from the higher heights. It expands, it heats, it compresses, and it therefore warms, and it also causes a fire hazard as the air dries out. The air blowing off the Ozark Plateau has managed to get, as we mentioned, into the low 80s, and that includes the St. Louis area. Now, the second area of low pressure, however, that one develops off the primary one over in the mid-Mississippi River Valley. That moves into Illinois and then moves very close to the Chicago area later on Tuesday. That's later on today, February 27th, 2024. That area of low pressure, also, we have a dry line associated with it. This is something very interesting, for people who live in the southern plains, for storm chasers. They're very familiar with a dry line. They're familiar with something called the triple point as well. That's where you have really the center of the surface low pressure system. It collides with the dry line along with the cold front. That's the triple point. that's where tornadoes are going to be most common, and that's where you're going to have an extreme severe weather outbreak in that area. Now, the Storm Prediction Center has put the Chicago region in the highest risk for severe weather for today, but it's only at a 2 as of right now on a scale of 1 to 5. We're holding at just a 2, which is about a 20% chance for severe weather within a 25-mile radius. That severe weather risk does include the possibility for tornadoes. The main risk, however, is large hail. But let's just talk about the tornadoes for just a little bit. St. Louis is also within this risk. If you look on the European computer model, which is really not really the model to go to for these types of outbreaks. It's really more the North American mesoscale model. But we're just using the European computer model just to look at the dew points to see the dry line, which the North American mesoscale model actually shows something very similar. So we can go to either one. You'll see dew points in the 60s, in the low 60s, the lower 60s, making its way up the Mississippi River Valley. When you get to the North American mesoscale model, you even get a dew point of just about 60, starting to hit the Chicago area by Tuesday afternoon. But what you also see, so first, dew point of 60 degrees is humid air. It's from the Gulf of Mexico, and that's what is going to be fueling those thunderstorms. But what you also see is a dry air wedged in between the front and the humid air. You see a pocket of really dry air, dew points in the 40s, that goes into the Missouri area. That dry air is still well within the warm air. This is something which is happening out ahead of the front. That's something called a dry line, which people, again, in the plains are very familiar with the dry line. Texas, Oklahoma, you'll have temperatures in the summertime. You'll see temperatures go into the hundreds, maybe the hundreds basically, where the drier air is. Temperatures only in the 80s and 90s in the humid area. But that dry line is something which is common. It separates the humid Gulf air from the dry desert southwest, the southwest desert air. The desert air and the Gulf air become separated by a dry front over the Texas area many times throughout the summer. Well, we don't have that so often here in the Chicago area. We do see a dry line starting to make its way. It's clearly shown around the St. Louis area and possibly even making it up towards the Chicago area. At the same time, we also do have the center of the surface low occurring in our area here in Chicago. So, although I assume it doesn't officially, for whatever reason, does not officially fit the triple point, because you'll don't see anybody talking about it, but we do have surface low pressure moving into the northern Illinois area later today, along with a pocket of dry air, which, it's easily called a dry line. It's something that doesn't normally come this far north. And the severe weather risk really is a little bit further east than normal right now, and that's due to a warm front that's going to be situating itself well out to the east. So we have this thunderstorm potential. Thunderstorms could become severe, and initially some of those storms could have a lot of rotation, so we could see some isolated tornadoes. Chicago is included in this. Chicago is well in this area. We also have the effects of Lake Michigan, which could play a role in this as well. I think it would dampen. I personally think it would lower the thunderstorm chances should any type of a breeze develop off of the lake, but the effects are not clear. It could also enhance the front. Now, what's also very interesting is that with all of this, within a 24-hour period, we're going to go from record heat, we're going to have humid air, then warm and dry air, and then we have a very potent cold front coming through later on tonight. It would be Tuesday night, February 27th. That rain the precipitation will be falling as snow at some point after midnight, probably after 3 a.m. or so. We could see something like a snow squall, in fact, here in the Chicago area, with perhaps even some snowfall accumulation. Even in the St. Louis area, there could be some snowfall accumulation. We're dealing with there's uncertainties with this snow shower, but there is the chance for instability in the upper atmosphere during that time, which means any snow that does develop could come down pretty hard, but it will be short-lived. So it's just interesting to see all of this take place within a 24-hour period where temperatures might even drop into the teens within this air mass behind the front. That's later on in the week. We have, after this quick shot of really cold air, the heat comes back, or the warmth comes back, unseasonably warm air with a ridge moves back into the Midwest for the weekend. And the roller coaster weather continues for many locations for next week. If you live in the upper Midwest, in the Dakotas, or in Minnesota, you might want to pay very close attention to a developing storm system in the beginning part of next week, which, the last I checked, the European computer model has the thing blowing up to hurricane strength of 28.7. But that's something that would need to be updated, and that could bring some heavy snowfall, perhaps even very heavy snowfall, to the upper Midwest. That would also put the Chicago area in the warm side of that storm system once again, bringing, again, unseasonably warm temperatures into our area. At the same time, a sharp cold front will likely be associated with that storm system as well, which could bring different types of precipitation perhaps as well, but the primary precipitation would be rain and would be falling in the warmer temperatures as well. So a very similar situation next week to this week. The two storm systems are probably going to end up being very similar to each other. We have the record warmth also making its way out onto the East Coast for some cities, but it's not as impressive out there as it has been here in the Midwest. I wish everybody a wonderful day. Enjoy the really warm weather. If you like warm weather, enjoy the snow for all those states that are getting snow. And for people who love thunderstorms, I know there's a lot of people who love thunderstorms. We have a lot of people who love tornadoes as well. So you could enjoy all that. I hope everyone stays safe. It's especially important, of course, if there are tornadoes. And realize Chicago usually does not get tornadoes, so, usually don't get it, and could be some isolated. Once the tornado alley really has moved into Memphis, Tennessee, and it's not quite made it into St. Louis yet. Anyway, stay safe and have a wonderful week. You've been listening to Weather with Enthusiasm. This podcast can be found on almost every platform where podcasts are available.